what we do.
So we want to wait a little bit?
Yeah, if you don't mind, just a few minutes, and then I'll,
yeah.
or just enough time for me to finish this and walk up to the desk, and then
Okay, how many minutes?
5.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 to 10 tops. I can't imagine anything going terribly wrong. Let's see. Let's see.
It's because I had some last minute changes.
Gotcha. Let's see. Yeah, let's make a.
Or if I have to, like, just play one by one. That's okay.
And do it that way. I think we should be able to. Let's see. Let's call this. Oops. Priscilla, is this your, this is your playlist here?
Yeah.
So let's see if we can just, no, you want me to just drag and drop? Oh,
Yeah,
let's see.
didn't let me do it.
Yeah, that is, let's see. Okay, yeah, it is not letting us just do that.
I can,
Just kind of head back and go one-to-one, looking like that. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
I might even just change my mind about one last thing.
Okay, that is kind of the nice thing about doing it one by one is you can
See how it plays out.
feel in one song over the other.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's gonna work. I can also play it, and you can turn it down a little bit while he introduces me. So it's just instrumental playing. So I'll just play it starting now.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab some water and wait
Oh,
till I
yeah.
can find the
Yeah.
soundboard and give you a thumbs up.
Okay. Okay.
Bueno, bueno, bueno. Bueno, 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 bueno,
All
bueno.
microphones live, yeah, just start talking at one.
This is a cool microphone, so let's use this one. Welcome, everyone, to our first show and tell since the beginning of the pandemic. We're so glad to be able to host you here tonight. And I'm Javier Duran, Director of the Confluencenter for Career Inquiry, and we're really happy to have you here tonight. If you haven't already, please be sure to sign at the entrance to receive your tickets for the food truck, which is located here on this corner. And as you come in, you also notice we have QR codes taped to the back of the chairs and tables. You can scan those to see our event program for tonight. So it is my pleasure to introduce our performer tonight, Priscila Rodriguez, Nogales in the house, also known as Neftis. She's originally from Nogales, Sonora, and Arizona. And her artistic expression is manifested over rhythms and rhyme patterns at a young age. She recently started focusing more on her border life, upbringing, and her lyrics. Like a lot of Chicanos in Arizona, she moves seamlessly between English and Spanish without missing a beat. Her current mission is to promote culture and history preservation through the arts with her music and projects like Nogaleria, which is part of our Fronteridades project. And with that, please welcome Neftis. Adelante.
Yeah, muchas gracias, Javier. Everybody here, how are you feeling tonight? Yeah, you can hear me out there? All right, all right. I know it's chilly, but we're gonna get this going here. So my name is Neftis. I'm from Nogales, ambos Nogales, and recently I have been working more on building that cultural identity of the border. And hip hop is through the way that I've been doing it for most of my life now. So these are some of my original songs that I'll be singing for you. So make sure to follow me, Instagram and all of that as Neftis. You guys can talk to me after the show at my little merch table. And I'm very excited for all the speakers that we're gonna have today to learn about all these amazing projects that shine light on the border life. So thank you for being interested. My name is Neftis. Just gonna turn this a little bit. Yeah. How is everybody? This is Neftis, the natural series. Yeah. Siente lo natural. Yeah. You can feel the natural. Siente lo natural. You can feel the natural. That you can get from this music, from the journey to your dreams if you really pursue them. I'm not gonna tell you what to do, man, but get off of that thing and stay moving. I'll show you what mood I'm in. Entre nubes, un par de versos Anubis. 1, 2, 3 y aparecen mis poderes controlando lo que sucede. Ven, te enseño dónde crece eso que necesitas comer para que actives el tercer ojo que tienes en la mente. Vente, I'll show you where crece eso que necesitas comer. Just follow the trail, you'll find many signs and the route will prevail. Along with nature, forjo mi future y a la misma vez mi destino construyo. Todo fluye como debe, without a doubt in every step of the way. No se hagan güeyes, so don't come around man with your double faces. Sé que me entiendes, así que pon la mano arriba. Put your hands up for the hip hop familia, cause we're part of the whole. El cuerpo del suelo, from the stars the soul, el alma del cielo. Yeah, yeah, siente lo natural. You can feel the natural. Yeah, yeah, siente lo natural. You can feel the natural. The natural series in your ear. Hey, what's up? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. This is some of my new music. Some of this you can stream it though, so find me as Nefties everywhere you can. Give me your likes. Some of the support, you know. Hey. This that funky-ish, It's that funky, It's that funky, It's that, yeah. Dice, sale el sol por el este, no hay nada que me moleste. I'm gonna make the best of it. Me pueden ver, mas no me pueden tocar. Invocar esta diosa quisieran lograr. Convierto el rap en un ritual habitual. Solo los que nunca entenderán hablan mal. Y yo voy despreocupada. No me importa lo que digan de mí. Voy despreocupada. Siempre tendrán algo que decir. Voy despreocupada. Por mientras me verán seguir. Despreocupada. Mejor me ocupo, es vida lo que escupo. La tinta es negra, pero no está de luto. Esta necesidad para algunos es un lujo. Soy de la frontera y esto es romper el muro. Les enseño cómo estructuro con señas, como si fueran analfabetas. Sí, tendré paciencia, me adapté, esta es mi naturaleza. Evolucionar sin perder la esencia. Esto no es ciencia ficción, la realidad la creo yo. Salí del hoyo que yo misma cavé, con tanta seguridad que la duda no cabe. Casi pierdes la cabeza por ellos, casi te arrancan los cabellos. Por eso digo puro love pa' mis haters. Al fin pa' mí todo es tan bello. Voy despreocupada, no me importa lo que digan de mí. Voy despreocupada, siempre tendrán algo que decir. Voy despreocupada, por mientras me verán seguir. Yeah. Sale el sol por el este, no hay nada que me moleste. I'm gonna make the best of it. Sun comes up on the east, none can break my peace. Sacaré lo mejor de mí. Oh, estoy en un lugar donde nadie me alcanza. Hoy pesa más la pluma en la balanza. Tengo el balance perfecto, salud, espíritu, intelecto. En el intermedio me deshice del miedo que me dio, buscando medios de expresión en lo que meriendo. Encuéntrame riendo, reparando el daño. Sé que no hay mal que dure 100 años. Voy despreocupada, no me importa lo que digan de mí. Voy despreocupada, siempre tendrán algo que decir. Voy despreocupada, por mientras me verán seguir. Despreocupada, yeah, yeah. That's what's up, we gotta keep going. Everything you're doing, just keep going, no matter what anybody's saying. Hey, despreocupada. Hey. Everybody liking them tacos? Man, I'm jealous of you right now. Hey. So sometimes we gotta change it up a bit, right? And we gotta focus on ourselves. And this is what the song is about. I don't wanna know, no quiero saber. 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 Deja que pase el sabor. Por ahora aguanta el frío, después hará calor. No quiero saber, deja que pase el sabor. Sabes que I'm here for you, but for now I don't wanna know. No quiero saber, deja que pase el sabor. Por ahora aguanta el frío, después hará calor. No quiero saber, deja que pase el sabor. Sabes que I'm here for you, but for now I don't wanna know. Ha sido demasiado también para mí, mucho por digerir. Dije no herir con mis palabras y veme aquí. Así que perdóname, necesito un espacio. Me acelero rápido, solo ocupo un rato para irme a fumar y manejar por el barrio despacio. Escuchando estos beats, despejo la mente. Me veo a mí misma, despejo la mente. Con palabras escritas, despejo la mente. Me veo a mí misma, es despejo la mente. Reflect, reflect, reflect. Reflect, reflect, reflect. Reflect, reflect, reflect. Reflect, reflect, reflect. Ha sido demasiado también para mí. Y venme aquí. Ha sido demasiado también para mí. And I'm still here. I don't wanna know. No quiero saber, deja que pase el sabor. Por ahora aguanta el frío, después hará calor. No quiero saber, deja que pase el sabor. Sabes que I'm here for you, but for now I don't wanna know. You know I got nothing but love for you. Right now I just need a minute. Escuchando estos beats, despejo la mente. Me veo a mí misma, despejo la mente. Con palabras escritas, despejo la mente. Me veo a mí misma, es despejo la mente. Reflect, reflect, reflect. Reflect, reflect, reflect. Ooh, reflect, reflect, reflect. Reflect, reflect, reflect. Hey, how y'all feeling, me? Hey, thank you so much for coming out tonight, presenting all these awesome projects again. Everybody out there, come close to the stage, come closer to my voice. And I only have a few songs here left. But then again, I want to thank the Confluencenter for artists. Many of you guys have seen some of his work here in Tucson. So we're definitely working on much more projects in Nogales. We want to make the art scene and the culture just pretty much thrive, and we want the younger generations involved. So thank you very much for supporting this kind of work for the borderlands. And I have this next song, actually, it's called Rompiendo Fronteras, that I want to invite everybody to watch our YouTube video. It's Rompiendo Fronteras again, this song with my official beat maker, Cisco Beats. He's my homie, he's over there in Nogales because he's deported. But we're making music all over the world, and that's why we call it Rompiendo Fronteras. I also expressed the importance of keeping the history alive. And this led me to develop the project No Galeria. And this is why we want to make a change. de este lado es más azul el cielo. Dejan a sus familias por buscar dinero y se convierte en pesadilla en lo que fue un sueño americano, como el blues. Algo tuvo que nacer de la esclavitud y aquí estamos yo y tú después de tanto. Dime qué podemos hacer para ver un cambio. Si te responden con disparos la pedrada y sabemos que la policía está apagada, nadie ha visto nada y las cámaras ni graban, solo te queda contárselo a tus camaradas. Como cuando ves algo caer del cielo, para unos eres loco, para otros alguien muy despierto, para algunos vale mucho más tu silencio. Te dirán mátate solo y dinos tu precio. No temen igualar ninguna cifra y si de cifras se trata ya no creo en sus mentiras. Negocio en la frontera entre empresas millonarias y mi Nogales como un pueblo fantasma. No hay nada que ver, va en retroceso con los mismos en el poder. ¿Y dónde está la gente joven? Los que sueñan, los que aman, los que bailan y los que componen. No dejemos que esto muera, no olvidemos nuestra historia ni lo que contaban las bisabuelas. Llevamos su fuerza en la sangre con el instinto de proteger el terreno como los animales. Es el Wow Wow West, saquearon las reservas y aún en ellas están sus orígenes. Es el Wow Wow West, manipularon la historia a su propio interés y quieren que tengas miedo y no te acerques al cerco. Pero nuestra música va mucho más allá, rompiendo fronteras en el mundo entero y no nos divide un cerco. Esa línea era invisible para mis ancestros, línea divisoria que no entiendo. Nosotros somos los descendientes del desierto de Nogales, hijos del sol y los nopales. Por nada del mundo van a pararse, que el sol los queme, a nosotros nos abrace. Descendientes del desierto de Nogales, hijos del sol y los nopales. Por nada del mundo van a pararse, que el sol los queme, a nosotros nos abrace. No nos divide un cerco, no nos divide un cerco. Hey, that's what's up, ambos Nogales community. We're together, you know. It's just a fence right through us, pero no nos divide un cerco. Hey, thank you so much again. Do I have one more? Do I have time for one or two? One? Two? One. I do invite you guys to again follow me. I can't stress this enough because it's free. You guys can listen to my music for free. You guys can buy it if you want to, but it's for free, okay? So thank you. This is the cumbia de los fronterizos. Hey, what's up? You guys like cumbias? Don't like cumbias? Hey, esta es la cumbia de los hijos del sol. Al que madruga Dios le ayuda, mientras la manda se cumpla, seguiremos trabajando hasta cultivar la fruta, ver la cura en mi gente, mi carne, que fluye inspiración lúcida en la sangre, con fe que tenga el poder de transportarte fuera de este mundo y de fuerza recargarte, para regresar a darle en esta jungla. A veces no sé qué es lo que no deja que me hunda, but I gotta stay up, no hay de otra. Inculcar a los míos, buscar motivación propia, no olvides tu cultura, respeta tus raíces, resiste opresión, no te sensibilices. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Y es que sometimes estando en esta jungla a veces no sé qué es lo que no deja que me hunda. Descendientes del desierto de Nogales, hijos del sol y los nopales. Por nada del mundo van a pararse, que el sol los queme, a nosotros nos abrace. Descendientes del desierto de Nogales, hijos del sol y los nopales. Por nada del mundo van a pararse, que el sol los queme, a nosotros nos abrace. Yeah. Simón. Bendecidos los hijos del sol. Mañana, mañana vendrá un tiempo mejor y será un deleite. Yeah, it's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Y es que sometimes estando en esta jungla a veces no sé qué es lo que no deja que me hunda. Y es que sometimes estando en esta jungla a veces no sé qué es lo que no deja que me hunda. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Bendecido los hijos del sol. Mañana vendrá un tiempo mejor. Simón. Bendecido los hijos del sol. Mañana vendrá un tiempo mejor. Hey, so that's what's up. Thank you everybody. My name is Neptis. Thank you, Confluencenter, the U of A, Andrew W. Mellon, everybody involved, Galería Mitotera, Mis Chingaderas, Rogue, Tucson, everybody, hey. That's it for me, but I'll leave you with this awesome little beat by Cisco Beats.
Welcome. Bienvenidos a todos. It is a pleasure to have you here today during our last show and tell this year and first in-person show and tell. Thank you for being here with us tonight. As many of you know, the Confluencenter started this community-based series in 2012 in downtown Tucson as a way to share research and creative work from the university community with the community at large. In 2018, we partnered with Jose Jimenez and Petroglyphs, who hosted us at his Las Barrio location. This year, we have renewed this partnership, and we're delighted and grateful to be here at the Mercado de San Agustin Annex. Our thanks to Jose, who is back there, and to the MSA Mercado de San Agustin Annex team, Carl Haney, and to the amazing Paul Weir, who is responsible with his team for the lights and sound. Thank you. We're also thankful to our food provider, Tacos de la H. Make sure that you taste their wonderful and delicious food. A special thanks to the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation for supporting the Fronteridades Grad Fellows Program. And of course, my sincere thanks to the Confluencenter team, which makes all of this possible. Ángela Martínez, Yasmín Vázquez, Yadira Caballero, Cristian Rubalcaba, Valeria Tapia, and Drew Batia. Muchas gracias. A round of applause for them, please. I take this moment to welcome and introduce our deluxe moderators. Today we have Melissa Brown Dominguez and Mel Dominguez joining us from Galeria Mitotera to introduce our presenters and moderate our Q&A session. Galeria Mitotera is a space where Chicanx culture is celebrated, artists of color in the community are uplifted, in a safe space for community members and artists to inspire one another through art, and togetherness is cultivated. Melissa Brown Dominguez is the arts administrator at Galeria Mitotera, who coordinates, manages, and supports all of the events and classes with a creative and welcoming spirit. Mel is an artist muralist from LA who has lived in Tucson since 2007. Mel's community outreach began at Self-Help Graphics and Art in East LA, where he was a Getty intern. Mel was the summer youth coordinator that headed the community mural project with the youth from the neighborhood. Mel's artwork is a direct expression of his Chicano culture, political issues, social issues, and environmental issues, highly committed to those. Before we begin with our moderators, we will have my colleague, Yadira Caballero. It is my pleasure to introduce Yadira. She joined the Confluencenter team as a program coordinator senior in 2018, and she basically runs the Confluencenter. She manages everything, and many of you know her, so she does an amazing work managing all of us at the center. She previously worked as a research program coordinator for the Ural Center's Native Nations Institute. Yadira has a degree in agribusiness economics and a master's in Indian law from the University of Tulsa. She's a citizen of the Navajo Nation, and today she will give our land acknowledgement. Welcome, Yadira.
Yat ed anoto she ya Yadira Caballero Yaneshia look at the ne neshlon ado nasht ejetopa a dashache ado nake bashachin ado dit out stunning neshlin bitast eat den nasha ado que a Tucson dan cashed in. Hello and good evening. My name is Yadira Caballero. I have introduced you all in my Diné language by telling you my clans, which establishes where I come from. It's more than just telling my name. It's about where I come from and my identity and the establishment of the clans. I come from the Reed people clan, born for the Mexican. My maternal grandfather is Zuni Edgewater, and my maternal grandfather is Mexican. I call Grand Canyon home as it is one of the special places where it is talked about in our creation stories. I am honored to be here like many of us here. I am a visitor of these lands. As we live in a moment of transition, we have to continue to understand and listen of the long-standing history and stories that has brought you all to reside on the land. The land is part of who we are. It is part of our past, our current, and our future. We should carry the respectfulness of the people who have been here thousands of generations and will continue for generations to come. If we can take the moment to acknowledge the University of Arizona and the city of Tucson are located on the native homelands of the Tohono-O'odham Nation and the Pasquayaqui tribe. They are the ones whose care and keeping of these lands allows us to be here today. It is a place in relation to the original people of the land and who continue to carry their traditions and cultures. Everything around us is alive, and it has a purpose. It is a special place where we are surrounded by the mountains, the plants, the animals, and nearby waters, which all have a meaning to the original people. We give thanks to Mother Earth and honor our life to the Creator. We look after the life on the land that is given to us. It is imperative that we continue to carry these reflections where you currently reside and places you go. We need to build our mindfulness of our present participation and places. And please continue to listen to the stories shared by Indigenous peoples, especially the elders. Now, I will pass it over to Mel and Melissa, who will introduce our presenters and will be moderating the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias, Yadira. Sorry.
Thank you, Javier. Thank you, Yadira. Folks, come closer. There's seats up closer. We welcome you to come take a seat. Thank you all for joining us tonight at our Transborder Identities and Community Testimonios show and tell. Show and Tell is an interdisciplinary multimedia presentation series hosted in partnership with Petroglyphs Tucson. This fun, informal space allows scholars, artists, performers, and community members to share innovative work and creative new ideas. Make sure to stay and join us for questions after all of the presentations. In the meantime, feel free to write down any questions during the presentations. We will try to get to them at the end of the presentations. Index cards are located right over here, closer to Lower Arizona, where everybody's pointing back there. In this show and tell, 4 presenters will speak about their final projects, which revolve around the topics of U.S.-Mexico borderlands experience, testimonials of transborder identities, and cross-border narratives. Melissa?
Before I bring up our first presenter, I just want to remind you all of our wonderful vendors that are here tonight. We have Miss Chingaderas, Lower Arizona, Nefties from Nogales, and we also have Rogue Tucson Art over in the corner over here. So please go and look at the beautiful wares that they brought tonight. So I'd like to introduce our first presenter, Carmela Pacheco. Carmela is a PhD candidate in Border Studies in the Spanish and Portuguese department at the University of Arizona and is a 2021 Confluence Graduate Fellow. Her project, Cross-Border Recovery and Pedagological approaches to La Indita is integral to Fronteridades initiatives in its effort to expand border learning. Carmela states of her project, this study bridges interdisciplinary approaches of both archival and Spanish language recovery to expand border learning in the SHL classroom. The study is twofold. One, it works to recover the Indita genre from the archives at the Center of Southwest Research at the University of New Mexico and the Gutierrez Hubble Collection, both located in Albuquerque. Secondly, the study will create a digital story for intermediate heritage language students. This digital story will serve as a model for both recovery efforts during a pandemic and as a model for students to create their own digital story focused on borderlands oral traditions, popular culture, and identity in the SHL classroom. Please welcome Carmela.
I'm not seeing it. Okay. Buenas noches. So nice to have you all here afuera, en el aire libre. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to the Confluencenter. And thank you, Melissa, por una buena introducción. So this is my project. I'm honored to share it with you.
the main objective and main goal for this project is to really challenge dominant, transnational, and cross-border narratives and ideologies by recovering narratives through the archives and then using those narratives as pedagogical and learning tools in the Spanish as a heritage language classroom. So to begin with, this is a little bit about the recovery that I did with respect to feminine voice narratives. So I really look at the indita and the corrido from the mid-1800s in New Mexico, and this was a pivotal, like transformational time during New Mexico when the U.S. annexed so much of what was formerly Mexico. And at that time, so many transformations took place, especially regarding women. And so what I do is I look at these ballads, these really poetic and stylized ballads called inditas and corridos, to tell another story about these women and to really get inside of what they were going through. So I don't know if you can see very well on the screen, but if not, I'm happy to guide you. So here's some of the resources that I first started to use. And in understanding what is the indita, where does it come from, and why is it so special? So Vicente Mendoza, the musicologist from Mexico, spent time in New Mexico and really looked at the genealogy of it and saw that these from the 1600s in Mexico City, there were these theatrical performances called tonadillas in the Coliseo de Mexico City, and those spread out into many different communities around Mexico in the form of sones, right? We may be familiar with the son de cubano and all of the musical infusions of African American and indigenous elements. And so from that, it traveled up to New Mexico into what was called the indita. And the indita, how it's different from the corrido is that it's, in its name, it's feminine, it has indigenous elements, such as the baile, the rhythm of the dancing. And then also what distinguishes it is that in New Mexico, we have a long tradition of women singing these ballads to express their suffering, because many women who were detribalized were sold as slaves and captives. And this was a form of them expressing themselves and what they were going through. And another thing that distinguishes it from the corrido is that it's sung in the first person, so it gives a much more personal account. And so rather than, also with corridos, I'll get into that in just a minute. So I'm going to continue actually here. I want to point out, if you can see in the photos here, two of some of the fundamental archivists that have helped me with this research during this fellowship. So Samuel Cisneros initially found the first indita that I'm researching, and with his research combined with Marcus Flores during this pandemic, I was able to find, and they were able to find, really, I was just guiding them, some really key information about one specific indita. And this indita se llama La Indita de Juliana Ortega. And I want to read you the first two coplas. Desde el vientre de mi madre, fui desgraciada al nacer, desgraciada he sido hasta ahora y desgraciada moriré. Fui desposada muy niña, sin saber mi voluntad. Por mi madre fui casada antes de cumplir la edad. So she was sold under the age of legal marriage. And this is a document, I don't know if you can see it, of the original indita. And sure enough, with the help of Marcus Flores, he was able to find that she actually went to court to file for a divorce at 13 years old. And so this I bring this into the classroom along. What I really do is I bring this corrido also into the classroom, el corrido de la votación. And for time's sake, I'm going to try and speed things up. But this one also, being that corridos are normally a male-dominated genre, this one takes a shift, and it's what I presume is sung by a woman, composed by a woman, and I use it as a learning resource in my Spanish as a heritage language classroom to show that we can recover narratives as a form of language learning and learning our own history, right? And so this is the project that I had my students work on. It's a project-based learning with co-created materials. What they had to do was create their own digital story about how to challenge a dominant narrative regarding the border or the borderlands, and also create their own corrido or their own ballad. And actually, they didn't really do just a corrido. They mixed elements of the indita as well, because some of them are in the first person. And so here's some of the example that I did for them, and I shared with them El Corrido de la Votación, which talks about women fighting for the right to vote in New Mexico. And this was something I never learned about growing up, and so I offer them ways to challenge these dominant ideologies or narratives, such as those around immigration, those around using Spanglish, those around English-only movements. And so what they did was they had to do a little búsqueda of artists in the community or popular artists to find how these artists are challenging those dominant ideas. And so, for example, we have Los Tigres del Norte. They also had many other projects that they worked on with different artists, talking about these transnational complexities. And then what they had to do was create their own ballad about borderlands experiences. And I want to share with you a few coplas that they did, and I was really impressed by how poetic, how much talent they can bring to the world with just their own creations and their own creativity. So one of them, she says, voy a cantar un corrido de una niña de Douglas, un pueblito en Arizona, donde se conectan dos tierras. And then she says later, comunicando con mi familia se vuelve un poco difícil. Mi español creció conmigo, seguiré aprendiendo tanto como puedo mejorar. And then another one, he says, en una casa sin libros, su idioma es español, se confunden las palabras, las letras se ponen nervioso, se ríen en cómo habla, sufre en lo que no sabe. Su mente no es estable, expresa con esta copla. And then another one, she mentions Durango, Brazil, Kansas, Chicago, all the places that she has lived in and that have created her own self, right? By cruzando esas muchas fronteras. And then another one copla más I'm going to mention, she says, no soy completamente de América ni México. Tengo lengua de dos idiomas y una cultura de dos países. So you can see how they're confronting this notion of transnationalisms and through their balladry. And I just want to finish with one where she actually sings and tiene un poco de musiquita. So I hope you enjoy. Here it goes.
Esquina de Arizona, en ciudad en el desierto, comida muy deliciosa. México siempre fue cerco En el año de 2003 nació una niña bella, ojos grandes color café. La llamaron Isabela, con una hermana mayor. Alexandra es su nombre. Jugaron en cualquier calor, descansaron en sombra. La música de su papá, terca como su abuelo, corazón fuerte de mamá, siempre mirando al cielo, y no se olvidan al Woody, su perro travieso y lindo, aunque le dicen el Gordi, es muy precioso y chico. Al colegio Bella se fue, ya no vive con su familia. Llamadas no son suficientes, extraña una cada día.
Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Carmela. Who doesn't love a good corrido, right? They remind me of my tata so much. Mel?
Oh, huh. Next, we have Luis Carrion, is an award-winning producer, videographer with an extensive background in developing projects for online audiences. He is also a 2021 Confluencer Graduate Fellow with the Confluencenter. His project, Mexican Migrants Return South, Transborder Testimonios of Resilience and Adaptation for a New Arrival Community in Mexico City, is an ethnographic film project which focuses on returned migrants living and working in the community, in downtown Mexico City known as Little LA. Please welcome Luis.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. I'm happy to be a part of this project. Thank you all for being here. And it's great to see real faces, sometimes half covered, but you know, mostly being with other people is just a wonderful thing these days. So I do have a clip from my film that I want to show. Let me just find my actual, here we go. There we go. So as Mel mentioned, my project is called Americanized Mexicans Return South, Reverse Immigration and How Migrants Adapt to Forced Migration in Mexico City. It's a short documentary. During the course of my 2 months in Mexico City, I was able to interview about 13 people, and 4 of those individuals I was able to shadow for an extended period of time. So that's basically what my film is based on. Just as a way of background, more than thousands of adults that are between 18 and 35 have been deported to Mexico, and these are 1.5 generation migrants. These are migrants that came to the US as young people, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old when they first migrated to the United States, and they have grown up their entire lives in the US, basically living as you and I are on the border or in the United States as Americanized citizens. Once they graduate from school and enter the workforce, life here in the US, if you're not documented, becomes much less tenable, and it's much more difficult. You very quickly become criminalized. It's hard to get Social Security numbers, as we all know, driver's license, and it's very difficult to make it once you're out of school. So a lot of the times these individuals end up getting deported, or if they're not deported, they just decide on their own to return to Mexico. And some of the people that I spoke to had made that decision on their own. The young lady the woman that I'm featuring on today's clip actually did that and decided to return on her own. I basically came up with some research questions. Basically, how do former Americans live after deportation in a country they barely know, and how do they navigate the challenge of a forced return migration? I'm basically interested in seeing how individuals rebuild their lives, how they form community, how they love, how they celebrate, how they laugh, what they do for play, how they work. So much of our time here in the U.S. is spent debating immigration policy, but I have found that very rarely do we actually talk about what happens to people once they leave and return to Mexico. So that's basically my driving question in creating this project. Just by way of information, when new arrivals return to Mexico, they're often bombarded with ads inviting them to work at call centers. It's a great commodity if you are an English speaker living in Mexico, because you very quickly get hired for call centers, by call centers. And many of the people that I interviewed actually work in call centers, and they're all clustered in the center of town, of the city, in this area that's now known as Little LA. My final film focuses on 4 individuals. This is Gus on the upper right-hand corner. On the left, there's Diana. There's Fernando on the lower left, and Ana Laura on the lower right. And these are individuals that have either been deported or returned to Mexico on their own. They all have families still in the US. They have children, they have parents, they have relatives, and they are now living divided in the border. This is also a story for me that I find interesting. And we live here in the borderlands, but the border's influence is felt hundreds and thousands of miles beyond the borderlands, deep into Mexico City and all of Latin America. And so these stories that I focused on are examples of how the physical border extends so much further beyond our region here. So Diana Sanchez is the individual that I'm focusing on, and I'll just show a short clip from my film. And let me just navigate to where it is, and hopefully we can play it.
I was 4 years old. My mom, one day she said we were gonna go on a long car ride. She said, vamos a ir a pasear. So it was her and my sister, who's 5 months old at the time, and my mom was pregnant. I didn't understand at the time what was going on. I just remember kind of starting at night. Well, we were eventually in a truck, and then eventually we tried again because we couldn't get in. And then I remember us turning ourselves into immigration. So it was just my mom, my sister who was 5 months at the time, she was pregnant, and myself, I was 4 years old. We were in the cell together, all 4 of us, I guess you could count my other sister. Yeah, it's crazy now, when I look at these pictures, I'm like, wow, I really was over there, huh? And now I'm here, and it's just way different. My dad, my sister, these pictures really mean a lot to me because I hadn't really talked to my dad or had any heart-to-heart conversations. So this day was very important, his words to me, his last words to me. Washoe County in Reno, Nevada, this is when I was getting booked and everything for immigration. I had already been here for a week, but then they felt the need to redo my fingerprints and take my picture all over again and put me officially in the system of immigration. I miss Reno, a little world's biggest little city. We are at the Monumento de la Revolución, or how other people like to call it, Little LA. English-speaking people are here, a lot of binationals, a lot of people who got either deported or who left voluntarily. These are where most of the call centers are. There's T-Tech, there's AT&T nearby. There's a few other call centers nearby. And there's also a casino and a lot of restaurants that also advertise like American food, like burritos. Burrito is not a Mexican thing. Actually, I learned that that's an American thing. This is for actually for a call center for a really good cell phone company in the United States. All of the customers are from the United States, and I work from home, from Mexico. The keyboard is in Spanish. The keyboard has been challenging. I still can't get it down. Basically, the company was, because we went into a pandemic, you know, like everybody else, they had to take strict measures because they didn't want their employees getting sick or anything. So they pretty much set us up with a computer. We have a computer, we have headphones, they gave me a chair, they gave me a camera. They set me up, and then if I need any extra help with anything, they're very accommodating. It's a really good company. When I started it, I was doing jiu-jitsu. I had requested to do jiu-jitsu, and this girl was running it. This girl was teaching it, and then there was like another little girl in my class. And so it was just like the three of us, and I liked it because it was very personalized, and I learned some moves and stuff. So by that time, they were already kind of introducing Sambo. And even she suggested, she was like, hey, why don't you go try out Sambo? And at first I didn't like it because like they slam you a lot. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm not used to, my skin, my skin is not used to all this roughness. Some of them work out twice a day, and like the guy doesn't make it easy for me to take my pace. And he's like, come on, he's always pushing me though, and I like that. I'm like, come on, Diana, and yeah, and that's how it got incorporated into my schedule. Mexico has a lot more diversity than I was prepared for, to be honest. I really was not prepared for this much diversity. Like to me, that's why it's been so weird in my head, because like sometimes I forget what country I'm in. And just the diversity. I wasn't ready for like Russian sports. I wasn't ready for as many languages as this country has, and I really wasn't ready to see other races. Like I really did not know that Asians love Mexico, and not only that, they have a freaking community in Tepito. I was like, what? Are you serious right now? Yeah, I like it. It's really awesome to know where I came from, where my people came from, where I'm from. I had no clue. I was just labeled for 30 years like undocumented. There you go, you're not even from here. Like people would just always make sure to remind me that part. And now I'm here and I get to learn about my culture. It's amazing. Like we have real history. Because I have a life out here now, and to be honest, it's a lot better than the quality of life that I had up there. So I'm very happy with my decision of coming here. I feel very comfortable, and I'm super proud to be part of this movement, because you feel like it's not how they painted it to be, like, oh, it's just like all Mexicans and stuff, but what people don't understand, and there's a bigger community out here of like the binationals, everybody that's coming out here, so it's really changing, and it's amazing to be part of that change. I like it. Everything, I mean, For a while there, like since 2013, I've struggled. I used to live in a car. Like, there's no way I want to go back to waiting for my next case, my next court date, and waiting to see what the judge said. No, hell no, you can keep all that. No, I have it much more better off out here.
Thank you. So that's basically it. That's a short clip from the film. I really want to go back again one more summer to get a little bit more in-depth footage, but basically that's the gist of one of the stories that I'm incorporating into the final project. Thanks.
I hope you all are taking a moment to go and write down your questions on those index cards. All of these presentations lead you to want to know more about them, right?
I know. Luis says beautiful storytelling, definitely. So as we go to our third presenter, Linda Choi, I'd like to say a few things about Linda. Linda is a PhD student in the School of Geography, Environment, and Development with the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences at the University of Arizona and is a 2021 Confluencenter Graduate Fellow. Her project is Belonging on the Frontier, an Asian American immigrant experience on the borderlands, and it provides an autoethnographic perspective of the Arizona-Sonoran borderlands, drawing from personal narratives as well as placing them within the broader context of the historical patterns of Asian immigration in this region. So please welcome Linda.
Hi everyone, my name is Linda Choi. I'm a PhD student in the School of Geography, and I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. My project is called Belonging on the Frontier, an Asian American immigrant experience on the borderlands. So this is a picture of Morley Avenue in Nogales, Arizona. Morley Avenue in downtown Nogales, if you guys don't know, is a street that runs along the US-Mexico border and is connected by a pedestrian foot crossing. And this cross-border foot traffic is what gives you the feeling that there is a sense of fluidity to the border. So I've been in Arizona most of my life. In the early 90s, my parents moved to Nogales, Arizona, which is not typically known for or a destination for Asian immigrants. They had heard about this place that would be a good place to sell clothing as they were struggling in LA, and that the border was much better for business than inner city Los Angeles, which was where they first immigrated from South Korea. And when they arrived, the border was a hybrid zone, a space of exchange, barrier, and lots of flow of migration, culture, and cultural values. And it was in this space that my parents embedded themselves in, and many of our social networks transcended this border. My brother grew up thinking he was Latino. So there are two parts of my talk. I will give an overview of my project goals, which resulted in a podcast, and then I'll briefly go over the border closures during the pandemic and the repercussions it's had on downtown Nogales. And the podcast should be available on the Confluencenter's website. I was interested in engaging with autoethnographic work with my family because the Asian American experience is underrepresented in the borderlands, and my goal was to tell this story that's not very visible or well understood. I did this by generating a personal narrative around my family's story, settling along the Arizona-Sonora borderlands. I wanted to understand how this experience, in particular my parents, my family's connection to the economy, cross-border flows, intimately shaped questions of identity and placemaking in this region. I wanted to explore the ways in which identity and place are created through a sense of community and attachment to a place informing the immigrant experience. And I wanted to illustrate the reasons my parents, along with other families, were attempting to tap into the economic flows that produce the borderlands. So with their shop as the centerpiece and a point of entry to the border, I researched, reflected, and wrote about the Asian American immigrant experience in this Anglo and Mexican frontier. I offer my own and my family's day-to-day experience of negotiating place, identity, and belonging in this contested zone. So Asian immigrants have a long history of immigration and exclusion from the United States. Having played a major role in developing the Western US, Asian Americans are also the fastest growing population relative to the perception that extensive Asian immigration only occurred in the turn of the 20th century. Usually we think of Asian immigration in reference to hardship with Chinese Exclusion Act or the Gold Rush. So that being said, almost nothing is known about the placemaking experiences of these immigrant residents/citizens. In particular, few studies on show the Asian immigrant experience, especially along the US-Mexico borderlands, both academically and in popular discourse. So the story of Asian immigration is still continuing, and I wanted to focus our lens on the borderlands. So this is a clip from my podcast.
Just a block up from the border is where my parents ran their small business for the last 30 years. With their shop as the centerpiece, I reflect on what it was like to observe in their daily on a street that was a stone's throw away from the border. While in that downtown shop, the women coming into my parents' shop week after week, traveling by bus for 10 to 15 hours on a stretch just to reach the frontera, were school teachers or housewives who were trying to find a way to send their kids to school and help their own households. They would buy merchandise on this side of the border and take it back to sell in their own towns in Mexico, either in their own shops, but most likely out of their own homes. My own family started their business during the 1990s. They were one of the first Asian immigrant families to open a retail shop in Nogales along the US-Mexico border. Before moving here, after spending a decade barely trying to make ends meet in inner city Los Angeles. Along with fellow Jewish business owners along this corridor, who had arrived almost 2 generations ago, like many immigrants, they were just trying to make it, chasing the American dream out west. Growing up in a Korean immigrant family along the Mexico border, my childhood was marked by many contrasts. My brother and I grew up speaking Spanish daily, and for my mother, Spanish soon became her second language.
So it was an incredible risk for them to leave Los Angeles. They left a place in LA where there were many Korean Americans and immigrants, leaving a community in a sense of place. This sense of place was informed by an already existing Asian American community. Essentially, they were crossing borders to move all the way to Nogales. While it was risky for them, it was also risky for these women who would make the long trek from Mexico, crossing and buying goods across the border to make a living in their own hometowns. It was the borderlands in the context of pre-NAFTA, a process by which economies on the US-Mexico border were dependent on Mexico. The borderlands was a niche borderland economy that relied on flows of buyers, distributors, which made this border a bustling and successful place within this larger Latino context. As my family made a place for themselves and a life on the street, they became rooted through attachments, people, and created a sense of place and belonging for themselves here on the borderlands. And lastly, I would like to conclude by talking about the pandemic and the border closures and the social and economic repercussions it's had for downtown Nogales and the city as a whole. Morley Avenue has always been heavily dependent on Mexican shoppers, and the US-Mexico border, including the Nogales border crossing, was closed to non-essential travelers since March 2020 and just recently reopened in November 8th. So when the pandemic hit, these cross-border flows completely stopped, and it was the longest interruption of the border in U.S. history. Many businesses struggled during this time to stay afloat, including my family's own business, which never fully reopened. And these flows have been changed permanently. Through personal contacts, my mom has contacted all of her long-standing buyers, and many of them will not be coming back. So what remains of this one bustling corridor remains to be seen. And we've become inappropriately focused on border walls. It's important to conceptualize the border as a place of exchange with long-standing flows. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda. Mel and I were recently at the border in Nogales with Neftis for a beautiful art mural. I don't know what happened to that mic, it just stopped. But we definitely saw what Linda was talking about, how economically the environment has changed on the Nogales border. So thank you for that presentation. How's everybody doing? It's getting a little chilly, but I have to say I was reminded, because I get cold very easily, and I was thinking it was just a few months ago we were all hoping and wishing for these winter nights, so let's embrace it, right?
Oh, thank you. Oh, you were going to read the rest?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I guess I'll, so our final presentation tonight is by Gloria Flores. The project is by Gloria Flores and Andre Saucedo. Gloria is a PhD candidate in Latin American literature and cultural studies at the University of Arizona and is a 2021 Confluencenter graduate fellow. In collaboration with co-producer Andre Saucedo, their project, The Frame, A Virtual Pandemic Eye, is about being faced with social distancing and isolation during the pandemic. Flores and Saucedo dedicated themselves to mastering virtual tools to be able to continue dancing with others from their homes. In this project, they have produced a manual for virtual dance instruction for dance instructors, dancers, and directors with technical methods to approach the screen and create a sense of community while still being physically distanced. In culmination of the project, they both produced a virtual dance performance in a webinar setting that emphasizes a theater-like experience for spectators and dancers. Andre Saucedo is a professional dancer and dance educator from the Juarez, El Paso region. She is the director of CUS Contemporary Dance Company, and she is currently a faculty member in the dance department at the University of Texas in El Paso. Please welcome Gloria and Andre.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thanks to the Confluencenter for funding our project and for inviting us here tonight to present. I am Gloria Flores, and
I'm Andre Saucedo.
And this is our project, The Frame. We changed the name a little bit, The Frame, a Pandemic Virtual Dance. And we, as border artists, always believe that transnational collaboration is crucial for the development of dancers in this region. Before the pandemic, dancers from both El Paso and Ciudad Juarez would constantly collaborate, teaching and performing together in both spaces. And after the pandemic hit in March 2020, and the migration and traveling restrictions that were set up on the border, affected dance collaboration transnationally. So, and dance was just affected globally because we could not see dance happening outside of a dance studio or of a theater. So we had to rearrange the way we think of dance and the way we teach dance and perform dance because we think of dance as practical nature, that we have to be together, our bodies have to be interacting physically with each other. So we had to rearrange the ways in which we think, teach, and perform dance. So yeah.
Y bueno, pues nosotros tuvimos que adaptar y crear nuevas estrategias de enseñanza, lo más cercano a algo presencial de manera virtual, utilizando la...
Bilingually, because she's from Juarez, I'm from El Paso, so why not do this in both languages? Thank you. So at first we thought we were going to be limited by being on the screen, but instead dance, it opened up multiple possibilities for dance, because before the pandemic, before trying to interact virtually through dance, dance was very limited. Only certain people were able to dance, only certain people were able to train, because it's usually more expensive to travel and to get the proper training. So now people around the world, world-renowned companies were offering online classes for free, but they're usually $800, thousands of dollars. We have to travel to take these classes, but now they were offered virtually, so we were able to collaborate, to learn, and to interact with dancers internationally. So this, instead of being a limitation, it opened multiple possibilities for dancers around the world.
Y bueno, como sabemos, la danza es un mundo gigante. Gloria y yo desarrollamos una presentación de danza de manera virtual, simulando que fuera similar a una presencial en teatro. Y pues fue un reto que tuvimos, pero esto nos ayudó a desarrollar a través de las plataformas virtuales habilidades de enseñanza y de presentación a través de.
So then we came up with the idea of the frame, which first started as a thought of writing down all the tools we had used for this performance and for our teaching techniques. And we thought of doing a manual, which later we said, well, we are performative artists. Why are we writing this down? We should instead be presenting this. So we came up with the idea of making a video of just putting together all the pieces that we had that we had used throughout the pandemic to become better at teaching and performing in a virtual manner. So we made this video that shows the transformational phases and how we were adapting to this new form of teaching and performing.
Y pues bueno, ¿por qué le llamamos The Frame? Nosotros vimos esta posibilidad de nombre porque la pantalla se convirtió en nuestro espacio de clase, de ensayo y de teatro. El marco de nuestra pantalla representaba para nosotros pues la vida en ese momento, y lo cual eso cambió nuestras perspectivas como bailarines, coreógrafos, directores y como ser humano.
So now we're going to show our video. A video that shows the transitional phases of our experience as choreographers, as dancers, and as educators. And we collaborated with other border artists. We had our musician, he made original music for this video, Gerardo Samaniego, who is he's from Mexico, also from the El Paso, Juarez border. And we also had the video producer, Alejandro Cardona, who's right here. He came with us. And so I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you. Muy bien, vamos a comenzar con los ojos cerrados, las manos relajadas, no hay estrés en ningún lado, pero tampoco está completamente todo, no está trabajando, pensamos en el abdomen que está contraído, ¿sí? La espalda está derecha. Y vamos a respirar.
I'm from the United States, and so my relationship with the border is like El Paso is my home. The border is my home, and I don't really feel it's on there ni de aquí ni de allí.
Yo quería comentar también para desarrollar la creatividad con otras experiencias fronterizas, no sé. Estaba pensando también en ese concepto de esperanza, de la gente que no tiene otra, que como que necesita, que no tiene otra cosa a la que pueda sostenerse, ¿no?
And thank you very much. That was the video, and you can find it. Is it on YouTube?
Not yet.
Not
But
yet.
you can follow us on Instagram, at Cool's Dance or
Pendular Borders. And thank you very much.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Bonita noche.
So thank you both for that presentation. So we're gonna take this time for a brief intermission. Now's the time to think of those questions after all of these presentations. Jot them down on an index card or be ready for the microphone to come around.
So if you haven't, get your tacos from the food truck or visit the vendors that are here with us tonight in the back of the space. So it'll be about a 10-minute intermission. Thank you.
Check 1, 2.
And we'll have to be
Check 1, 2.
we'll have to be closer to the stage, obviously, just so the receiver is.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, hello.
Huh?
Yeah,
it has to be closer up there, I think. Well, it'll still work, but it'll just be not as. It has one too. Okay. I'll have you. You want me to help with it? Well, we'll give it to Mellon. Okay. Awesome.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello, presenters. If you all can hear me on this mic, we got about 2 minutes. If all the presenters could meet me up here in the front.
They've gotten like about almost 400 people. So I think we're gonna keep it at cap though. So maybe 100 to 200 people. I think that's what they. You guys have any questions? Yeah. All the time. Oh, really? Mostly for her. Oh, God.
But I'm sure that people will ask for the audience.
Announce it one more time just because I don't, it kind of like cut out. Yeah. These, he was telling me that the closer we are to this area, the better.
Okay.
So we'll see how it works with the audience. But yeah.
You try one more time? Oh.
Yeah, try one more time. These are the questions. So for each, yeah. They said there's lots of them. Hopefully we'll get some other. Yeah, and then we can also like questions for the panel for one of our Confluencenter staff members. And then I'll leave this mic. This is the mic for the audience.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, presenters. If I can have the presenters meet up here in front with me, we're almost ready for these questions, and I have a handful of them with me now. We got about 2 minutes.
Probando, probando.
Is it okay to begin? Yeah.
Good.
Okay. When's the first question?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's get these questions started. The first question is for Linda. Linda, is your podcast ongoing? And what ways or how do you plan to continue elevating the Asian American immigration experience or stories?
Thanks for that question. I hadn't thought of continuing the podcast, but I have all these new skills now. So I definitely think that it's an opportunity to make a couple more podcasts. And I'm going to continue to uplift the Asian American community and experience by doing talks like this and continuing to do research along the border and focusing on how the pandemic has affected Morley Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. For Carmela, did adding a musical component to your students' assignments case, excuse me, let me read that again. Did adding a musical component to your students' assignments ease or increase the nervousness in speaking in Spanish?
Wow. I think because they were able to express themselves, I think it was actually more comfortable because we did so many activities preparing them for it. We would practice every day some free writing where they would work on their openings or their despedidas. And, you know, as an educator, I try and be as encouraging as possible and to make as many mistakes as possible. And at the end of the semester, they all had to come up and recite their corrido, and some were really into it. They were singing, they brought instruments, some of them. So overall, I think they really enjoyed it. And looking at previous evaluations, that was one of their most favorite parts, was the musical component. So thank you.
I know, it's kind of awkward. We're like behind you guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to come over here. The next question is for Luis. What mannerisms recognized as American did you notice in the group of Little LA residents? Did they all seem to have a stereotype view of Mexico while living in the U.S.?
Well, the mannerisms, there's so many that can be identified as Americanisms, ways of dress, some of the tattoos, but the Spanglish, obviously, is something that comes across. And it's interesting to see how people in Americanized Mexicans in Mexico will try and suppress pochismo, and there's a strong pressure to assimilate and to speaking Spanish properly. So part of the process of adapting is coming to terms with this lack of command of the Spanish language sometimes, so that was very interesting to see how that plays out. Can you say the second part of that question again?
Fun.
Sorry.
Did they all seem to have a stereotype view of Mexico?
Oh, yeah. Well, the stereotype view of Mexico, more than a view, it was coming to terms with accepting being there and not longing for the U.S. And I heard a lot of them talk to me about how it was very difficult to grapple with the loss, a sense of loss, and ultimately being able to embrace this new identity that they are creating in this homeland, really. That was part of the process for them. So that's kind of what I can say about that.
You know what I really liked about all the presentations was my dad was deported, but he was deported as an older man, and he had tattoos and things like that. So it was really neat to see you all's presentation individually for different reasons. But Gloria and Andrea, how was it, because performing arts and dance, how was that feeling trying to get that out there during this time of COVID?
Well, first we thought it was going to be a challenge. We were scared. We thought that the art of dance was going to, well, it did suffer a lot. And we thought it was going to completely die for at least, well, the year that we were all in our homes. But I as I said before, it turned out to open multiple possibilities and to rethink how dance has also been very, I guess, discriminatory in the ways that only some people can access performances, only some people can access training, only some people can access even class itself. The people with disabilities are usually not accepted in classes. So all of a sudden we were thinking, okay, how can we dance with just our hands? How can we perform with just our hands or just our feet or just our face? And we were able to see that in a screen, in a theater, you're not able to see how the articulations of hands, the articulation of feet. So I think we were able to really explore different ways to get dance out there, to interact with other people, to take classes from people from all over the world, and to interact with other dancers. And Andrea.
Bueno, pues yo lo pienso como que fue un reto muy grande donde tienes que estar en constante motivación y a veces cuesta bastante. Entonces acudes a la lectura, a la investigación, al habla con diferentes personas, no necesariamente artistas, sino diferentes ramas. Y te apoyas sobre eso y es mantenerlo y transmitirlo a través de una pantalla con esos compañeros, colegas, alumnos, maestros y se logra, ¿no? Se logra a través también de la aceptación de que estábamos en este cambio, en este encierro por mucho tiempo y cuesta trabajo, pero creo que va y parte desde uno y luego ya lo vas como pasando un poco a los demás. Entonces está la aceptación y luego ya pasas a la adaptación y luego ya la acción, ¿no? Donde lo haces, lo proyectas y va y fluye como es. A veces estará muy bien, a veces estará muy mal, pero lo aceptas, vas con él.
Gracias. That's so awesome. Our next question is for both Luis and Carmela. Or excuse me, just for Carmela. Melissa's my editor over here, so. Carmela, what have you found regarding the LGBTQ TQ community for Las Inditas and for the reverse immigration stories?
Okay, so, well, I haven't found with Inditas. So with the Inditas, they're mostly going back into the 1800s that I've really investigated. But I wonder with corridos if they're shifting the perspective also of a male-dominated genre to include more women's voices or LGBTQ voices within that type of narrative. I wouldn't be surprised, but I unfortunately don't have the answer to that. And then the last part of that question was reverse migration. Okay, so well, that would be another area that I don't have the answer for. But I like those questions, and I would be curious to see, how the LGBTQ community may be shifting that dynamic, with such a male-dominated genre that's by, for, and about men to be more inclusive. So, thank you.
Thank you. Luis, how difficult and what was your approach to make the folks that you interviewed open up to you about their lives?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's one of the challenges of interviewing and entering into a partnership in filmmaking is being able to gain the trust of your subjects. So I really approach it as a collaborative process and a partnership. So I first started to seek out individuals and make contact with individuals that were part of this community without a camera, just, kind of talking to people, getting to know them, and then also sharing the fact that I am originally from Mexico City and I have lived a little bit of that experience, that bicultural, neither from here, neither from there, that we all speak of. I felt it kind of gave me an in a little bit. So commiserating about, some of the shared trauma that they've experienced. I don't have that traumatic experience of having to either, move back or deport myself or be deported, but I can empathize. So for me, it comes from a deep sense of empathy for the experience that these individuals are going through and trying to just kind of make that contact with them, initiate a conversation, and seeing if they want to collaborate with me and share their story with me in this partnership of creating a video. Because filmmaking can be very intrusive, right? And there's like this cinemagic that happens where we just see people doing things in front of the camera, but there's a camera there. So coming to an agreement that we're going to collaborate on a project like this is the first step. So it's a great question. It takes many different forms with each individual, but that's kind of the gist of it.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, I wanted to just mention one thing. One of my students, I wanted to include her in my presentation as well, but she did speak to transgender movements in her corrido. So, and that was a very powerful one. So I wanted to mention that. So I think there's definitely possibilities out there, and it'll hopefully grow.
Well, I think that what you all have done here is awesome because we were all living as this was taking place. So you all did this documentation for us so that we can realize these lives going on before us. And so I thank you very much for doing that. It's really awesome for me because I love this. I love the arts and I love storytelling. My next question is for Linda. Are there any efforts underway to share the Asian American migration experience transitionally and correct with Asian communities in Mexico? And go.
I have not thought about that. That's a really good question. I was in southern Mexico this summer, and I was trying to go to. I had plans to go to Mexico City, and because I had heard there was a large Korean Mexican community in Mexico City, but I couldn't because of the pandemic, and there were certain issues that arose. So I was kind of interested in exploring the Korean diaspora in Mexico as well, but I think the way that they arrived there was also similar through business and also through clothing, I think. But that's a food for thought. Thank you.
I'm going to follow up, Linda, with an easy question. Would someone like to know what was your favorite thing about growing up with both cultures?
Well, there was lots of things, but I would say it allowed me to learn to speak Spanish and to grow up learning how to cook and appreciate Mexican food. And so a lot of these, for me, it's allowed me to be able to do research in Mexico and connect with an entirely different community that I wouldn't have if I had just stayed in LA, I think.
Thank you. This next question is for Gloria and Andrea. Andre, my bad. My family is also from El Paso, Texas, and they would also just cross the border back and forth to Juarez to go dance, mostly. But this next question is, besides all the tech difficulties, people not being able to get connected, etc., what other difficulties did you encounter?
Bueno, yo creo que más que nada el realmente sentir que estás haciendo la danza, porque muchos decían, pues no estamos haciendo nada, no estamos moviendo, ¿no? Nada más con el cuerpo. Entonces es realmente el sentir que estás haciendo la danza y no solamente haciendo la mímica de yo creo que otro problema no tanto técnico, yo creo ya más bien es total, pues es el internet. O sea, el internet, la gama del internet traía bastantes problemas que causaban los otros, entonces era como la base, ¿no? Y yo creo que los espacios de cada uno de los alumnos bailarines que tenían que adaptarlos, construirlos, cambiarlos, modificarlos de una manera tan impresionante, porque tenemos varios estilos de danza y el piso pues no era el adecuado, o el clima, o realmente bailaban en su cuarto y el cuarto era o muy pequeño, ¿no? Entonces fueron uno de los problemas que pudimos enfrentar.
Yeah, definitely the space, dancing in carpet, dancing in non-wooden floors and readapting. And also, when we think about modern dance or just dance in general, we think about physical touch and interaction with other bodies, which is crucial, we thought. Crucial. How are we gonna, when we're dancing in ensemble, we depend on feeling each other, breathing together, and all of a sudden we didn't have that. So we had to think, how are we gonna do this now? So figure out different techniques on how to do contact improv. Okay, so now we're just gonna feel it and however the other person interpreted on the other side of the screen. So I'm gonna push and you're just gonna respond. So coming up with different techniques on how we think movement affects our bodies. It was, at first it was confusing and different, but then it turned out to be something amazing because it just brought in different ways of thinking of dance and feeling each other. Because when we were when we're not close to the screen and we're trying to dance, but you cannot really see the other people, you're thinking, okay, well, I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens. And then we go back and see the video, and this is really neat. It actually gives, it's different, and it gives a different result from what we were expecting, but it's not necessarily negative. It's just a different way of thinking about it and how each body is feeling, interpreting the music. The music gets there seconds late, so we each had to, it was very interesting, but I think it was a wonderful experience.
Y bueno, también quiero agregar algo que dentro de eso ya se involucran otras ramas, ¿no? Como la psicología, como la anatomía, o sea, ya creas un campo donde despiertas el lado físico, emocional y mental, tanto de tuyo como de los alumnos, estudiantes bailarines, para poder lograr y abrir esas como ramas hacia ese contacto o esa interacción con los demás.
Qué bonito. Qué bonito. Question for Luis. From your research, how many people have migrated back to Mexico? Can you share any statistics?
Yes. The numbers that I came up or that are residing in Mexico City are upwards of 500,000 right now that have, this is through the Mexican census. So it's quite sizable. Many of them end up in Mexico City, but they end up dispersing. And I haven't studied this population, but I know that Hermosillo also has a very sizable population of return migrants, as does various border cities as well, just because of the demographics that arise from the border communities. But in Mexico City, around 500,000 is what I've heard.
That's incredible. I had no idea. I have a question here for Linda. How many of the businesses on Morley Avenue were able to secure a PPP loan? And then the second part is, do your parents still own the shop?
Actually, my parents don't own the shop. They're renting, and a lot of those buildings are absentee landlords. And very few stores were able to get a PPP loan. because the first, I don't know if anybody knows, but that was part of the pandemic aid to help small businesses stay afloat. I think the first was like you had to secure the loan through much larger banks, and it was definitely biased towards English speaking and people who already had the paperwork ready to go for this sort of the submission. So I think maybe 2 or 3 small businesses that my dad knows were able to secure a loan in the later half of it, but it was definitely not something that was accessible for a lot of those business owners. That's a really good question. Thank you.
I have one last question here from the audience, at least on the note cards. If anybody else has a question who'd like to come up and ask it, please let us know. This question is for Gloria and Andre. Have you received penmanship?
Have you received more of an international audience or students because of Zoom? And what's maintaining attention? Was it hard?
I didn't get the last part of the question.
Was maintaining attention hard?
Okay. Well, yes. Actually, while we were working on this, I was working in another project, and I was recruiting. The initial proposal of the project was to recruit women from the U.S.-Mexico border, but when I started releasing the information, I received attention from people from migrants from Spain that were in the United States, or migrants. I had one woman. She was from Argentina, but she was in Chile. So, and all of a sudden, we discovered, well, not that we didn't know of, but we discovered that we were able to work with other kinds of borders, and yeah, we had all these people joining, and then when we had the final performance, there was people from Spain, people from France, people from Latin America watching this project, and if we were in person, that would have not been possible. So yeah, and retaining the attention, I think it wasn't. I thought it was going to be a hard part, but because you have to be very close to the screen, you have to be listening in order to get the attention. I think it was. I think it wasn't that much of a problem as I thought it would be.
Sí, pues de hecho, al igual, ¿no? Al estar trabajando en este proyecto, bueno, yo estaba con otra compañía, donde tuvimos una presentación virtual y también igual gente de diferentes lugares, había de Francia, ¿no? De Italia, o gente de otros lugares en Nueva York, en Los Ángeles, al sur de México, así, de la misma ciudad del Paso o el Juárez. Entonces es muy interesante porque a veces se maneja la misma estructura con ciertos cambios virtual a como se manejaría en presencial los ensayos o las pláticas o los entrenamientos, y también lo que mencionábamos, la posibilidad de cómo podemos entrenarnos a través de la pantalla a distancia, y los costos eran totalmente diferentes. Entonces esto abrió la posibilidad de entrenar con tus mentores que están en otros lugares. Yo tomé un curso, igual ahí había gente de todos los lugares, eran más de 60 personas en la llamada, pero obviamente tenían ayudantes para poner esa atención a los alumnos, ¿no? Y explicarles, bueno, esto estamos trabajando, o tienen preguntas, o sea, se manejan como estrategias, unas específicas que ya se manejaban presencial y otras pues ya se buscaron y se crearon nuevas totalmente. Entonces, yo creo que para mantener la atención es eso que menciona Gloria, de estar consciente, aware de qué estás haciendo, de poner atención, de que bueno, pues es tu tiempo, es tu espacio y pues hay que aprovecharlo al máximo, ¿no? No desperdiciarlo y estar ahí, porque obviamente, bueno, yo que doy clase en la universidad, sí me tocaba, ¿no? De apagar la pantalla, entonces era así como que bueno, pues no, mejor no entres si te duele algo o no lo sientes el día de hoy, bueno, mañana será otro día. Entonces también está como esa apertura, esa flexibilidad hacia ti y hacia los demás.
And I just wanted to add, even our collaboration was made possible because of this, because we've always lived in different cities, and we always talked about, oh, when you come in the summer, let's collaborate, or when you come in the winter, and all of a sudden, it was so easy to collaborate and make things happen. And we've been working together this whole year in different projects, and it has been amazing that this opened the possibility for that to happen.
I know. I think that that's so beautiful that that has taken place. That something that separated us all in our different spaces. That it gave us this technology space where we can use satellites to communicate, share space with each other again, and talk and sing. Just all of these things that happen in over the time over COVID. I think it's really amazing. Just and then where do we go forward? Where are we going now with our storytelling projects? What do you think, Melissa?
That's a loaded question, not for me today. I'm not on the panel. Does anybody else have any questions? I want to thank everybody for the questions. I want to invite Javier to come up.
Thank you, panelists. Muchas gracias. Well, this is a clear example of how the work of our talented students and also our communities is really, really, really not only for show and tell, but also to think and reflect. And especially in this, I don't know, still pandemic time. I think that was a great question, but I think the part of the answer has to do with how willing and committed are we to continue interacting. And I guess I'm gonna use the word in person because the feedback has been incredible in terms of this opportunity. And I wanna take this moment to thank our hosts here of the Mercado San Agustin Annex and our colleagues that make this possible in terms of the technical assistance and also for hosting us here. And we hope in the future to come back in the spring and repeat this type of events that are going to be key in that reframing and rethinking and also reconnecting with our fellow human beings in our communities. And thank you, Melissa and Mel, for your gran labor aquí de moderaderix. And also, we will be in the south side. We're going to take show and tell to South Tucson in the spring. So stay tuned. We have plans to bring this to La Cuarta Avenida, esquina con 28. And also here at the annex. I also want to thank the team again, the Confluencenter team that has worked very hard to put this together. Angela Martinez, Yadira Caballero, Yasmin Vasquez, Cristian Rubalcaba, our students who were here today, and also to our faculty and our community members and colleagues who made an effort to be here. I think this is going to be the first of several events, upcoming events. And again, you know, we are so fortunate to be in this community. We're not facing a blizzard right now, which is wonderful. We might have some rain tomorrow. That'd be nice. But at the same time, we need to really appreciate and revalue what we have here in this community. And the strength of the community is its people, no doubt about that. Also, thank you to our vendors that made their way here to the annex and they're showing their beautiful products and objects of art. And also, again, my thanks to Priscilla Neftis, who did a wonderful act to open this event today. Follow her on Instagram and all social media. She's gonna be big time before you know it. So this is the time in which you get to know her and say, hey, Neftis, remember, we met you in Tucson, and then she's gonna be someplace else. And finally, Jose Jimenez, my gratitude for conspiring with us to put this together. And if you have not visited Petroglyphs, do so. He has a wonderful collection of books. Even though he didn't think he was going to go into the book business, Jose is a literato nato that is going to also bring great things and great projects to our community. Gracias a nuestros chefs, Tacos de la H, hermosillenses, tucsonorenses. Los volveremos a ver seguramente. Y I think with that, I just wanted to close. And if you have not had Tacos de la H, the food, please, there's still time to do that. And yo creo que es todo, ¿no? Nos despedimos. Muchísimas gracias. And we'll see you next semester, next spring. Best wishes for a wonderful holiday season, and also stay safe stay healthy, and stay happy. Muchas gracias. Buenas noches.
Thank you, Javier. Now it's time to wrap.